If you have been around competitive games, you may have heard a comment along the lines of, "You have to get your butt kicked in order to become better." This may be true in certain situations, but these words have been thrown around way too much without context. And if you are a new player, I would even argue that this is by far the least effective way of becoming better. So in this video, I would like to talk about the type of people you should play in order to enjoy the game as you learn. Let's first start off with the hypothetical situation of a new player getting his or her butt kicked by a higher level player. The match will probably go something like this. The higher level player will outmaneuver the newer player in neutral, get a hit in, start a combo, get a knockdown, run mix-ups on Okizeme, and repeat till the match is over. The newer player may get a few hits in here and there, but is most likely not able to continue the pressure because the better player will have enough execution knowledge to defend against basic offense. Now there's always something to learn from matches, especially from losses, but the problem with this situation is that there is way too much to take in. The newer player needs to move better to position for hits, learn the multiple attack patterns of the opponent to block and punish, find ways to open up opponents that have better defense, etc, etc. Players need to take procedural steps and tackle small chunks of the problem. And if they are presented with an overwhelming number, none of them are going to be solved. It's like trying to drink water from a fire hose. There's just too much. And repeatedly playing in this situation generally only leads to frustration rather than getting better. So what is a good environment to learn while playing? Instead of only playing better players, I would recommend playing against the range, specifically even, slightly weaker, and slightly better players. Matches against even players will present challenges, but unlike the initial examples against better players, there will be much less of it. A player can then identify one of the problems and focus on it. For example, if the opponent is jumping quite a lot without getting punished, perhaps working on anti-air combos and setups to dissuade jumping might be a goal to achieve. Now, after identifying the problem, the player can test solutions against slightly weaker players. Since weaker players are prone to put themselves in more vulnerable positions, practicing certain aspects becomes a lot easier because there will be more opportunities. In the case of dealing with jumping opponents, better players may stop jumping after they realize that they are getting baited, whereas newer players may not realize or take longer doing so. Once the player is confident in their solution, they can go back to even players and test them under more stressful conditions. And if it all works out, they can continue to identify the next set of problems and repeat the cycle. The last set of players, the better ones, are there to give players some perspective and something to strive for. Perhaps the anti-jumping solution that was found earlier becomes less effective because they use a counter that a player didn't even know was possible. Or maybe they are taking a strategy to avoid the entire situation in the first place. It becomes a good opportunity to be exposed to knowledge that a player may not have been previously aware of. It's a great way to test one's skill and build excitement over the perspective on what is achievable in the game. Now, for the ratio of games you want to play against each group may differ based on what your goals are, but I would recommend something along the lines of 4-4-2. 4 for even and slightly weaker players, and 2 for better ones. The reason for this is that most of your growth will occur when playing against even and weaker players. And if you can, I highly recommend finding a consistent group to play since it will be easier to identify problems and test solutions. The learning environment will also be greatly enhanced if the good players in the group have analytical and communication skills. If they can identify what you're having trouble with, they might be able to guide you and figure out solutions. In other words, just make friends. Ranked matches are convenient, but taking that extra step to find regulars will make your fighting game journey much more enjoyable. You can improve while having a good time. Just don't be afraid to reach out. As for the crowd who's saying you can find even or weaker players in your area, I certainly don't have that luxury. Yeah, it happens. As a person who's gotten into Guilty Gear Xrd on its last patch, and Under Night In-Birth on the second to last one, I feel the pain of starting a game filled with veterans. I do, however, have advice and ways to approach these situations as well, but I think I'll do that in another episode. Anyways, let me know what you think of this approach in the comments below. And as always, till next time, have fun with fighting games.